right, so we have a 79-year-old man who presents to the emergency department complaining of dyspnea. His rhythm strip is shown above. What is the most likely underlying process? So this is a two-step question, second-order question, and it begins with ECG interpretation. And once we interpret the ECG, we could then answer the question. Now, this is a pretty classic board exam question. In fact, almost really could give you the answer just by reading the question. This appears very commonly on board exams in all emergency medicine, internal medicine, any specialty that deals with ECGs. So let's start with this. We have a rhythm strip on the page here. And when I look at the rhythm strip, it looks fast, it looks narrow, and it looks irregular. So fast, narrow, and irregular. First thing that comes to mind is atrial fibrillation. However, it's important to note here, this is not atrial fibrillation. And from the question, here's a little hint, right? A little hint, which I would consider the reveal here. So you have an older gentleman, and he has dyspnea, and they ask for an underlying process. So this is so classic for a question that has to deal with multifocal atrial tachycardia. And the classic treatment here is to treat the underlying condition. And you will see that so often on standardized exams that it should become reflexive at this point. But if you see this clinically, you still have to be able to recognize it and differentiate it. Let's go through our answer choices. So I'm going to start with answer choice B, which is Crohn's disease. And answer choice B, Crohn's, typically there's no classic ECG associated with it. Potentially if someone has chronic diarrhea, they may have hypokalemia. So you can see U waves or QTC changes. Definitely not what we see here. So I'm going to cross off Crohn's disease. We have pericardial effusion, choice C. Pericardial effusion, interesting. You could have a few different ECG presentations. You could have sinus tachycardia. You could have electrical alternans, which is varying amplitudes of the QRS complex. And you could also have low amplitude QRS complexes due to the fluid within the pericardial sac. So that will lead to a decreased amplitude of the QRS complexes. No, we don't see any of that here. So I'm going to cross out pericardial effusion. And then answer choice D, ventricular aneurysm. This is another classic board question seen ECG. The finding here is persistent ST segment elevation. You'll also have usually a deep QS wave. On exams, you're going to see persistent ST segment elevation. So we do not see that here. So I'm going to cross out answer choice D, ventricular aneurysm. What we do see is a fast, narrow, irregular rhythm. The differentiator from atrial fibrillation is that we see P waves here. So there's a P wave here, there's a P wave here, and I'm pointing at each of these P waves. And the characteristic that differentiates this is that these P wave morphologies differ. So we have 3 or more differing P wave morphologies, which means that there are 3 different atrial ectopic foci causing this rhythm, which is multifocal atrial tachycardia. The way you manage it is to treat the underlying condition. And almost classically, this is associated with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. So you give these patients, you manage their COPD, you give them oxygen, you give them bronchodilators, and that should treat the underlying rhythm. You may also see MAT in any chronic lung disease. You can see it in heart failure. You can see it in sepsis as well. So let's go with answer choice A, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And sure enough, that is what we get. That's the correct answer. Hey everyone, before you go, if you're interested in your own QBank, whether you are an MD or DO, a PA, or an MP, simply go to roshreview.com and sign up for a free trial. See if Rosh Review's content is right for you. Keep learning, keep working hard, and always have a sense of mission about your work. Now is your time. This is Dr. Adam Rosh signing off.